You guys can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So, as Abdullah said, this is the second part of the previous session. And first, let's do a quick recap about what we've learned last time. So the first thing that we've explored was Tmux, and we've seen like the three main things that Tmux has, which is the sessions and the panes and the windows. So we've seen how we could multitask with Tmux, and then we've seen the local shells, how that they are programs that it's as an interface, so we could know uh, and actually control the operating system. And also we've seen the types of the local shells that we have, and we've seen also the IP addresses and ports, the idea of these two things, because they are fundamental for what we're going to explore later. Also, we've seen NetCat, and we've seen some of its uses, which is banner grabbing to see what type of service that we have. We've also seen a simple client-server chatting, and we could just send data through back and forth. And at the same time, we've seen file transfers and how we could transfer the files through TCP connection to the other side. And now we're gonna explore, we're gonna see remote shells. So let me first do the full screen. Okay. So, okay, before we go to the practical side, let's explain remote shells. Basically, we've seen that the shells, the local shells, we could control our operating system, our PC, right? How about if we could, like, for example, control other people's PC? You know, how we could control that. So we will use the concept of shells, and we'll use NetCat. So we will connect both things, and we will have a connection, and through this connection we will have on the other side a shell running. The program, the shell, it will be running from the target machine, and it will give us, through the TCP connection that we've created using NetCat, we will have a control over the remote system. So we have generally two types of remote shells, and we're going to explore them in a practical way in just a second. So the first thing is the bind shell. Bind shell, it has another name also, the normal shell, but basically uh, the bind shell, the attacker here will be connecting to the target machine. So let me do it. Let me do this. Okay. Let's do also Tmux, the things that we've learned in the previous session. I'm gonna do a new session, and I'll call it bind. Okay. So, and also I'll do this to have the attacker machine and the target machine. Okay. Okay, so now we're ready. We have here the attacker on the left side, and here's the target. Here's the same thing. We also have here the attacker and the target. And if we see the content of the attacker, we have attacker.txt and attacker tool. So if we do attacker.txt, this attacker device, and if we go to the other side and see the content, we have a target folder, and at the same time we have target.txt. So if we do this, it says this is attacker device. So okay. Now, for the bind shell, the mechanism of how to actually implement this type of connection is that we could see here that the attacker will do the connecting to the target. That's why it's called the normal shell in some examples, because uh, the attacker, he will do what every device does, the basic thing. It will do the connection and it will connect to the target. And the target, we could see that it will do the listening. So if we do here the target, we will use NetCat as always, and we will do listening mode. Because if we see here, we have the listening mode. Also, we will use verbose, so we could know, so we have feedback about what's happening. And also we will do the port, the P, so we actually provide the port that we will want to connect to. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And before that, okay. Yes. Okay.
I just want to add something that what we're trying to do here, guys, is that we're trying to initiate a connection between us and a remote PC and a victim PC. So this is the simple or the normal or the bind shell, is that we're trying to initiate a connection between us and the remote PC. We're assuming that we are the attacker and the target is somewhere else. We know the IP of the target, and we know that the target is listening on that port. When we say that it is listening on that port, we mean that that port is open, and that port is you can visualize ports as the doors or as the place where you can get inside the PC. So that is what we mean by it is listening on that port. That a connection could exist between you and that PC via this door, via this entrance to that PC. So that's with the bind shell. And because later we're going to see the reverse shell, which is the exact opposite, is that the connection will start from the victim, not from us.
Okay. I also remember that I didn't explain something, so I was just preparing it. We could see in NetCat, we have also another option that I didn't explain. Uh, it's called the, if we see here, we could see that we have, what is it? Okay, so the E here that we're going to use the option, it's it's a way for us to execute things if a connection happened or if we connect to someone. So I'll do something here just to explain it a bit further. Uh, if I did this, now it's listening, right? This port that I've created, this socket that I've created, it's now listening on port 8888. And we have here E for execute, and then my program. My program, it's the same program that we've done last time, where it's just gonna print out that this is my program. So also, if I go and connect it, uh, if I do this, okay. Now, what we're gonna do here is that we will connect to the local machine. That's the IP address for the local machine, and then we will go to the port 8888. Okay, so we connect to this one, and now if we see, we just connected with the listening port, and we could see that here we have we have executed the program, which is my program here. And this is how we're gonna execute the shell. So, for example, we're gonna execute bash, and when we execute bash, we will have an interface with uh, the shell, the operating system of the target machine. So if I go here and close this, if I go again to here, target, okay. Okay, so here we're gonna do the same thing. Like, see now here this time, instead of executing my program, we're gonna do the bash. We're gonna execute bash. So here we're gonna have bash, and it's running right now, the socket that's listening. At the same time, if we go to the attacker, we're just gonna connect here. Now, if we connect, well, now everything tells me that it's connected. Now we have a connection to the target. And the difference now than the previous things that I've shown you guys is that if I executed ls, for example, we're gonna see the directory of the target machine. So I just did here ls, and we've seen the target folders, the target.txt, and now when I connected from the attacker, now I have access to the target machine, and I can execute things like, for example, if I do cat target.txt, I have like full control now of the target machine. And if I wanted to close the connection, I'll press Control C. And this is the basics of the bind shell. Okay. Now,
So, can you Tarek, go back to the terminal?
yes.
As you guys have seen, we technically hacked ourselves. We on the victim machine. Once you connect to the victim machine, it's going to execute the bash script, and then we try to connect to that machine from our PC. So the connection started from our attacker machine, and we targeted the target. And once we connected the target executed bin bash, and now we can execute our commands on the target machine. So we have hacked the target machine. Now we can delete the files, we can make damage to that machine, and that's what we're trying to establish here, of teaching you what does a shell mean. So the shell here is that we initiated a connection between us and that target, and we executed the bin sh shell on that target. Now Tariq will continue.
I've also here, like I did here I created some folders so it will be easier for you to visualize it. So I did here the attacker, and here's the target, so you could actually know what I'm doing. And I also want to add something that, okay, now we know how to do the shells, the remote shells with NetCat. This will help you in understanding other tools and stuff that you could use in attacking machines, because this is the fundamental thing. What you're going to do is that you will have a TCP connection, and you will gonna have a TCP connection that will gonna connect to the target machine. The direction, it depends on how you create it, and because there is advanced tools that uses all of these things, but they are an abstraction to the user. So everything is running behind the scenes, and it gives you the type of shell that you want. So now we're gonna see the other type, which is the reverse shell. And now the reverse shell, the difference from the bind shell and the reverse shell is that here, okay, I'll go to the other one so it will be much easier for you. The attacker is gonna do the listening. That's different from the bind shell. The bind shell, the attacker, he's gonna connect. If you see the arrow, the attacker, he's gonna go to the target. He's gonna connect to the target. But in reverse shell, the act of connecting will be from the target machine. So you will have the command, you're gonna inject it in some way to the target, and the target will actually go to the attacker and will know how to connect to the machine based on the IP address and the port number that you've provided in the command. So,
I just want to add one last thing, Tariq.
okay.
You guys may ask yourself about the bind shell, right? Okay, somebody hacked me because I have programmed my PC that once I get a connection on this port, then I'm going to execute bin bash script. Okay, I'm going to be smart and I'm not going to execute bin bash script, so nobody's going to hack me. And this is why we need the reverse shell. Because with the bind shell, you are the one who is listening and you are the one who is executing. But with the reverse shell, maybe somebody can find a place where he can execute a command and he can start the connection. So maybe you're not executing bin bash, but someone will make you execute bin bash and initiate the connection. The mic is yours, Tariq.
Okay. Later, I'm gonna go deeper into which type of shell to use and why we use that shell, and what are some scenarios that we could use the other type of shell. So I'm just like showing you the actual concept on which machine is going to connect to which machine, and then later we're going to see some examples that will actually give you a much clearer idea about both types of shell. So, okay. Now, going back to the reverse shell, the attacker is going to have the listening mode on the left side, on the attacker. And the target, he's going to do the connection. He's going to start the TCP connection so that the data will come back and forth, which will be the commands. And those commands will be interpreted by the shell, the bash, for example. And that way we'll have control over the system. So let me do okay. Let me do another session, and we'll call it reverse. Okay. And now let's go to desktop, CyberX, then okay. So now we are now in the attacker, and the first thing that we're gonna do is the listening. Always when we do a shell, a remote shell, the first thing that we will do is the listening part, the listening mode. So this time, the listening will be on the attacker, as we've shown here. The listening will be on the attacker. So again, the listening mode is -L, and then we'll do verbose, so we could have a feedback of what's happening. Then we will do P, so we know which port that we're gonna provide to connect to. And let's do 444. Okay, but this time we're not gonna do the dash e here. Later, if it's still confusing to you, later I'm gonna put both types of shell, the command line, side by side, so you could know the actual difference. Okay. Uh, so here we're not gonna execute bin bash. Okay, we're gonna execute it on the target machine. Here we're just gonna listen. Okay. Now we've done the listening, and now if we go to the other side, we're gonna do the actual connection, and we're gonna do v for verbose. Then we're gonna have the IP address, the local machine. Then we're gonna use the same port that we've provided here. Okay. Now this time we're gonna have the dash e, so we could execute bin bash, or so we could execute the shell on this side, on the target machine. So I'm gonna do bin. We're doing bin here because the bash, the program, it's inside this folder, so that's why we're doing here bin always. And then we're gonna do bash. Okay, bin bash. So now here everything is here. It's listening. So see what's gonna happen here when I do enter. See now, because we've done v for verbose, now we could actually know that there is a connection that's happening here. So now let's go back to the target machine here, the attacker, and if I do ls, we have the target. We have like full access of what's happening in the target machine. And okay, let's also let me do this. Okay, I'll do it again. Okay. Okay. So here, if we could see, this is the bind shell, okay, and this one is the reverse shell. So if we see here, for example, this one, if we could see the bind shell. Okay, one thing. Okay, so I'll do here NetCat. Then we're gonna have everything connection. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I just 1 second.
Okay, while Tareq fixes it, I may
Because I had a problem with
repeat what
you.
he was just saying. Yeah, take your time. I will go again through what you have just said about the difference between the bind and the reverse shell. So yeah, basically when you hear the term reverse shell in cybersecurity, you would always think that it is something complicated, but it is not. It's just reverse because it is reversing the process that is before just reversing the process of a normal connection. In the normal life, you connect with someone by trying to knock on his door. He's going to let you in. The reverse shell is just that you initiate the connection from him to you. That the invitation is not from you to him; it's from him to you. And it is useful because sometimes, for example, if you're having a website, the website is running on a server, so the website is taking your input. So when they are taking your input, they are not clearing or they're not sanitizing your input very well. So you can kind of inject a connection to you. You can just, the command that Tareq is just saying, nc-e bin bash. You can inject that command in that input, and then you can listen on your machine, and then you will get the connection you want to have.
I just think that doing it in one terminal will be much better. So we will have here the targets and the attacker, just the same thing, because it's going to confuse you if I did it in two separate terminals. So the first thing I'll do the bind shell, and the bind shell here, we're going to listen and we're going to execute, and then I'll do here. Okay. Now it's listening
So
and we
here
have
we assume,
bash.
yeah, what Tareq is doing is that you are assuming that the target machine is currently waiting on that port, listening on that port, and once it has a connection, it's going to execute bin bash.
Yeah, and
And on our machine,
yeah, you could just observe that here we have the execution will be here in bin bash, will be on the target machine, and on the other side, on the attacker, we're just gonna connect to it. So now, if we see, we have the full connection here. So now see, we have here it's listening, and on this side we're executing the shell. But on the reverse shell, just try to visualize it like this is the attacker will be for this one, the target will be for this one, and the attacker for the reverse shell will be here, and same thing for the reverse shell will be here. So here I'm gonna do listening, the listening part. It will be uh, just listening. The other
by
side,
the way, you're not in the directory, Tareq.
what? Oh, okay.
You're not in the
Yeah,
directory
yeah, I got you.
on the left side.
Yeah, yeah.
So instead of a listening, you're document.
Okay. So here we're gonna listen, and on the other side we're gonna connect, but this time the actual connection we will provide the option dash E, so we could execute bin bash while connecting. So if we go here, I have
So
everything
now
I can do.
we say you will hear this term, guys. When people explain, they say now we got the reverse shell. That
Yeah.
what does it mean? Is that when we executed the command on the victim sent us a connection, and now we have a connection. We can ls, we can do cat, we can do whatever we'd like to do. So now we say that we have a reverse shell.
Mhm. And also, if we see here, we here have the dash L, okay? This one, this is on the bind shell because it will be doing the listening part. On the reverse shell, there is no dash L. The dash L will be here. I should have not like cleared the whole thing because I wanted to have the command itself. But okay, I'll do this. And also here, I'll do this. Okay, so we have the commands back in the terminal. So here we did the L for the reverse shell here. Okay. Here we just connected and we've provided the bin bash. Okay. On the bind shell, we didn't have the listening part here. The listening part was on the target machine, as we can see here. So, like I said, the connection will be from the attacker to the listening for the bind shell. The reverse shell will do the exact opposite. Just like see the arrow where it's going at. So the reverse shell will go to the attacker this time in the reverse shell. Okay, so since we have like a connection, we wanted to improve this connection in different types of ways. I'm not talking about the shell itself. The shell itself, it has different things that we could do, but it's not covered for this session. We just need to improve the connection that we have created using any type of shell, the bind shell or the reverse shell. So the first thing that I need that I'm going to talk about is the encryption. So if now the like last time that we've talked about, NetCat is going to do a TCP connection, a ROTCP connection. That means that this connection does not have encryption. So if there is like, for example, on the other side, on the target machine, there is someone who is on the defense part and try to see what types of connection that's happening on the target machine, and then he realized that there is something that's suspicious, he could actually see what's happening through this connection because the connection itself is not encrypted. Because the connection doesn't have, for example, SSL, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. But first, I just want to demonstrate how actually it's easy for anybody to know what you're doing if your connection is not encrypted. So the first thing I'll do, I'm going to clear everything here. And I'm going to have, okay, let's do it with the bind shell. If it's not a problem. Okay, now we have connection. I just want to have how to. Okay. I'm gonna use Wireshark, but if you don't have any idea about Wireshark, it's okay. I just want to demonstrate how it's not secure, the connection that we've actually implemented. So basically Wireshark, it's just a tool that you could actually see the data that's going through the connections that's available to you based on the interfaces that you have. So I'm gonna do the localhost, and now the Wireshark now it's seeing or listening to what's happening through any connection that's gonna happen in the machine that we have. So let me make this here so you could actually see what's happening. Let me do this here. Okay. So now we have a connection, right? We have a remote shell. Now, if I do any type of command, like for example, ls, now Wireshark is capturing this data. Okay. So let's do a couple more of commands so we have more data here. So let's do let's cat target. Okay. We have the now you could see that the that we have that Wireshark has captured the data. Also, let's go to target folders. Now, if we do also pwd, which is print working directory, to see where we are. Now we are in the target folder because we've changed directories. Okay, so now we've done enough commands here. Let's actually see the data that Wireshark has captured. So if you could see here, Okay, I'm gonna put it here. Warshark, from what we can see here, has the exact thing that we've actually done in the remote shell. So if you could see the ones in the red, this is the ones from the target, what he have done in the machine, and the blue ones are the ones that uh, the target machine has provided to the attacker. And we could see basically everything that the target machine that the attacker has done to the system. So if we wanted to make everything like not so obvious to the defense part of the machines, we need to encrypt the connection that we have. Okay, so a way to do that. Let me stop this. There is this is why I said at the beginning of the first session that it's better to use NCAT than the NC, the other version of NetCat, because this NCAT, it has other features, and one of these features is the SSL encryption. This will basically make your encryption, what the data that's going back and forth, it will be encrypted. So I'm going to provide here dash SSL, and at the same time we need to provide dash SSL on the other side too. So now, because we've done the verbose, we could see what's happening. We could see here that we're using SSL here. Okay. And now on the other side, now we're going to connect to the target. We have now a connection, right? So let's say I do print working directory. Now here we're in the target. Let's see what's in the code. Okay, I forgot to continue that saving. Okay, now everything is ready. So if I do ls again, Warshark is now capturing the data. If I do print working directory, it's now capturing another data that's coming through. If I do cd target folders and I print the working directories now we are in the target folders. We are now, after we've done these commands, let's see how Warshark will view this data that we've captured. So now we could see that it's different from the first one, right? Now we could not understand what's happening between the attacker and the target through the connection that we've done, because this time the connection is encrypted using SSL. So that's a way to make things less obvious for example, the security analyst that's on the defense side. And this is for the encryption. Now let's do another thing, which is maintaining connection. But first, let me close Warshark. Okay, I'm gonna use another terminal for this thing. Okay, so for maintaining connection, we've seen Tmux, right? We've seen Tmux, how we could split the panes and how we could multitask, and it's great, right? But there is another feature, which is why actually Tmux is used, and it's probably the most important feature if you know how to use it, which is the sessions and how you maintain the sessions. Okay, so what do I mean by maintaining sessions? Now we know that in the internet is when we're trying to get, like, for example, we want to see a video or try to connect to anything. Sometimes the internet connection is not stable, right? And this could be a problem because if you are doing something and this thing requires you to not leave what you're doing because you're now advancing into the process of, for example, getting uh, more control on the target machine, then you want to have this connection maintained. So if because if the connection died out, you will start from the beginning. You will need to do everything from the beginning so you could start where you've left. So this is like a way to do, like it's like a checkpoint, you know. If you want to do other thing, you just want to save the session, so the session itself will not be it will not die. So you could start from where you left off. Okay, so let's do let's do another thing, but this time we're gonna have two connections here. Okay, so this is the target. Okay, I'll do here uh, okay. Now we're the target machine. We've executed the listening part. Now the machine itself, the target, it's waiting for connections to happen. And when the connection happens, it will execute bash on the target machine. It will execute the shell. So now the target will have the full uh, control over the system of the target. So here I'm gonna do again. I've done the connection, and let's say I close this one. I close the, let's say for example, the connection died out for some reason. Okay. I, for example, uh, killed the session by mistake, the connection by mistake. So I close this one, and then the connection has stopped, right? In Tmux, if you use Tmux, you will have the feature that I've just talked about, which is maintaining sessions. So let's do the same thing, but this time I'm gonna have it on a session. Okay, so I'll do a session here. Okay, let me do it here. Okay, because I need the shell to be on this side. So I'll go to desktop. What I'll do here, attack cat. I'll do the listening part here. The port I'm gonna provide. And I'll do another a different uh, port this time. Okay, I'm just gonna save this one. Maintain, and then I'll go to okay. So now I'm gonna have the target, the attacker, the target I mean, here. and I'm now here in the attacker. Okay. So here, what I'm gonna do here is that I'll have the target machine. It will connect. It will have the listening part here, and at the same time, I'm gonna connect through the attacker. I'm gonna change this one to 1, 2, 3. Let me do 5. Okay. And here I have connection, right? Okay. So now I have the connection here, and if I now Tmux, if I do like for example Control B, and then I'll do D. Now I've detached from the session, right? But if you see here, the connection is still going. It didn't die out. So let's say, for example, I close the terminal. It's still there. And if I go and open htop, and then I do here tmux, you could see now, what is it? Yeah, okay. You could see that tmux is running. 1 second. It's okay. It's right here. And it's still going on in the background. The process is still there because what Tmux have done is that it put the session in the background, so everything is still running, and you could resume doing what you've done before. So if I do Tmux ls, you will see this one, the one that we've done, maintain. So if we go to Tmux again, here, Tmux A is for attach and dash T is for the target. So now if we go back, we still have what we've done before. So every time, if you want to go to anything else than the connection itself, you could just detach from the session. So you will be sure that the connection itself will not die out for any random reason. And if I execute anything, it's still running. So that's a way, so we still have what we've done, so we don't lose any progress in the machine, for example. So these two things are about encrypting this connection itself and maintaining the connection. And now maybe you're still confused, so there is this exercise that I provided. So because if you do it yourself, then I think you will grasp the idea of both connections. So these two uh, will be the reverse shell. The red will be the attacker, and the green one will be the target. And here the arrow that tells you what's gonna happen, who's gonna initiate the connection. And here are uh, the options that you have and the meaning of each option that you're gonna use. So if you have the virtual machine open, you could try these things, and uh, you will have a better understanding. Because later, after this, there will be much more things that are more advanced. So I need you to understand this two concepts first. So maybe I'll give you like 5 to 6 minutes. try to do both things. Also, if you have any connection, well, any question, you could ask me since everyone is doing this exercise. And also, you need to know that every time we do any type of remote shells, the first thing that we will do is the listening part, and then we're going to connect from the other side. Okay, I'll do 1 minute, then I'll go to the rest of the slides. Okay, so we've seen both types of remote shells, the bind shell and the reverse shell. But which one to choose, right? We have options now. So generally, you're gonna use the reverse shell like 95% of the time, maybe even a higher percentage. And because that's because the bind shell has some problems. Okay, the first problem is the firewall filtering, because the firewall, when there is a firewall that's been set up, and you create a connection from the outside to the private network, the firewall will see this external connection and it will ask it like, what are you doing? Because it's very suspicious for a connection that's coming from the outside to try to connect to any target machine from the inside. So every time there is a connection, especially with a very strange port number that's not commonly used, the firewall will basically drop the connection. It will not let the connection to happen. So this is because of the firewall. The second thing, it's the NAT, the network address translation. I think Abdullah gave you like an article like 2 weeks ago to read, so you could have an idea about this. So I'm just gonna go about briefly, so you could understand why we can't use the bind shell for this type of things. So the bind shell cannot connect to the host because these IP addresses are not used are used for multiple machines. So they're basically duplicates because the purpose of the NAT, because the IP address, they're limited, right? You don't have infinite number of IP addresses. So what they have done, a solution to this problem, is that okay, let's take a subset from the available IP addresses and let's make it for the private networks. So you could use these addresses for different types of networks. So for multiple networks that you could have. So for example, in host 1, there is 172.16.50.1, right? This could be used in another network, and it could be used for different networks that are out there. So let's take this example for the NAT, okay? So let's say host 2 here, he wants, and by the way, this diagram and everything here, it's very high level. It's an abstraction. So it's not the actual details. I'm just trying to give you the concept so you understand it better. So host 2 here, it will make a request. It will say, for example, I want google.com. And this is my IP address, right? It will tell the router, and the router will see how to get google.com. Now, when the router tries to see public the public server to get google.com, it will request it from the server, and the server itself will think that the router wanted Google, but in reality, the one who wanted Google is host 2. But the server doesn't have any clue about this private network. So the router will say, okay, I want google.com, and this is my IP address. It will give it its public IP. And then the server will say, okay, the router will, you can have google.com. And through all this, the server doesn't have any idea about this, about the private network. So once the router gets back the website, it will give it back to host 2. And the same thing will happen here. Host 3 wants, for example, youtube.com. It will it will tell the router, and the router will act as a representative for these four hosts. So it will say, okay, I want youtube.com, and it will tell the server. And the server doesn't have any idea about these four machines. It just knows the router. And then the server will say, okay, here's youtube.com that you've requested. And then once the router gets the website, it will give it to the machine that it requested in the first place. So in both examples, when there is a transaction, or let's say a request from the router to the server doesn't know anything about the private network. As you can see, it doesn't have any clue. And this is a concept called IP masquerading, which is basically hiding a complete network. Maybe this network have thousands, or you could have like a huge number of machines here, and the representative for all the things that's going to happen from the private network to the public will be through the router. It will act as a representative. So now the problem is that the attacker itself, if it wants to connect uh, to the target through the bind shell, it will ask which IP address is going to connect to, because as I've said, there are multiple machines that have this same actual IP address. There are multiple duplicates, because this IP address is reserved for the private networks only. So you cannot actually know which which private network that you want to connect to. So it will not know which router, and therefore it will not know which private network that it wants to connect to. Now the thing with the reverse shell, and by the way, this is the router itself. It's the same thing here. The router can act as a firewall in some cases. You could configure firewalls in routers. Now, in the case of the reverse shell, since the connection is the one who's starting the connection is the target, it will allow that connection to happen. It will be the firewall will think that this is a safe connection. That, for example, it's trying to connect to a web server to get a website, and it will see that this connection it's normal. There is nothing malicious that's probably going to happen. This is for the filtering, the firewall filtering. For the network address translation, since the target is connecting to the outside, it will know exactly which way to go to, because here is the private network, and this is not the private network. So it will exactly know where to go through. So this is why we use the reverse shell more than the bind shell. Okay. So let's talk about network pivoting, the concept. I'm gonna use NetCat for this one, but in like most cases, you will not use NetCat for this type of things. You will use other advanced tools and other techniques, so because it's much easier for you. Okay, let's do because this is an advanced topic. Let's have, because I've done a challenge. Then after the challenge, if there is time, I'm gonna do the part of network pivoting. Okay. So the challenge is based on what we have learned from the past two sessions. Okay. And there is a flag. The flag will be in this format, CyberX, and then we will have some random text here that I've chosen, and it will be like a competition, but the one who's gonna submit the flag itself, the submission of the flag will be in the chat box in the chat itself here. Wait, let me put this here. Okay. Anyone who's gonna submit it first is the winner. Okay. But for this challenge, you need to, if you have the try hack me, if you set up try hack me the account, try to use the VPN. Okay, try to connect to the private network there. So I think you've seen how to connect to it, right? I think maybe Abdullah explained it before I come to the beginning of the session at the first time.
Yeah, last time we established that everyone had part of VPN connected.
Okay, so like
Sorry, I had VPN,
okay,
and we sent them a
so
video on the group.
okay, right. So I'll give you like 2 minutes to set up the connection for Try Hack Me, and then I'll give you the details for the challenge. So you could actually start the challenge itself, and the first person who's gonna submit the flag uh, here in the chat box is the winner. Okay. So I'm just gonna stop presenting. So I set up everything, and I'm gonna give you the details after this. Okay. So everyone has connected?
Yes, flag is CyberX, right?
Yeah, the
I mean the format.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
it, is it the one I wrote in the chat?
Wait, let me open the chat. Yes, yeah, it will be this format. So I'll give you my IP address, the IP address that you need to connect to, and I'll give you the port, okay? I'll put it in the chat box. And based on what we've learned, try to connect to this IP address with the port number that I'll provide and try to get the flag, okay? So the IP address will be this one, and the port number will be this one. Now try to see how to get the flag. And once you get the flag, if you want to put the flag, you can put it in the chat box so we could know. So far, 3 has connected to the IP address and the port. I'll give you the command so you could actually try to connect to. Or if, for example, let's say you don't have NetCat, you could use also this. These are the commands so you could try to connect to the uh, game. Okay, now we're seeing the connections. Also, if you're like stuck and you want to do it again, you could just do Control C, so you exit, kill the process, and then again you can connect with the NetCat. And if you get the flag, you can submit it in the chat, so I know that someone has actually got the flag. Okay, Abdullah Ayman has got the flag. Nice. I'll give you like let's say I'll give you like a couple more minutes, so you could uh, get the flag by yourself. Then I could like show you the answers. Okay, you want the listener commands? The port number. It's not 1234. It's you can see it here. It's 9999. 4 nines. And it's the connection. Oh, okay. Okay, let me open it. Wait 1 second. Let me open the. Okay, for question 2, it says set up a NetCat listener. So by listener, we need to provide the uh, to make it to we need to provide the dash L so we could actually listen. Yes. Yeah, just like what Abdullah Ayman has written in the chat. Yeah, I in the okay, IMSA says netcat then dash LVP1234 is wrong. Yeah, actually, I just provided in the quiz itself. It's either NCAT or NC. These are the commands that I put in the quiz itself. because I know there are other commands that you could use, but I just wanted to say that it's just based on what we've actually discussed in the previous two sessions. So it's either one of these you could use. If anyone also got the flag, you could submit it so I could know how many people actually successfully have gotten the flag. And and don't try to copy the flag from the chat itself and just paste it. Okay, so
Maybe you could have appended
yeah, I could,
uh,
yeah, I could.
something for each and every connection. So to
Yeah,
make
so
it
it
easy.
will be unique, yeah. But I didn't think about it until now when I've just seen the chat. Literally, anyone could grab the flag and just submit it. Okay, I'll one more minute left, and then I'll present the solution.
By the way, nice ASCII code. I like it. ASCII art.
Okay, I'll try now to present my screen, and I'll go through the challenge itself and I'll answer the questions. So, okay, I'll present now. Okay, so now you could see my screen, right? It's the presentation is working, right?
Yes, can.
Okay, so the first thing to get into the challenge itself is using the command that I've provided in the chat box. NCAT, then we put the IP address. Then after that, we're gonna put the port number, which is 9999. Okay. After that, we will be greeted with this, and we have now the first connection. The first question. The first question says, okay, a shell where the victim machine connects to the attacker. Now, in the bind shell, it's in the reverse shell, it's the opposite. The target machine, it will do the connection, not the attacker. The attacker usually does the connection in the normal shell, but in the reverse shell, from the name, in the reverse shell, the the target machine will do the connection. So the first answer will be the reverse shell. The second one, the question two, it will say set up a NetCat listener. And the listener, we know that in order to do the listening mode, we need to provide the -L. So we could use ncat-L or nc-L. And then the options that we have here is verbose. So we have V, and then the port number. And if we want to provide the port number, we need to have P, and then we enter the port itself. And then for the third question, which is detaching from a Tmux session. Just as I've shown you, when you want to maintain the connection, you don't want to lose the connection, so you want to detach from it. So detaching from a Tmux session will, and it will not be kill the session because it will maintain the session. So it will be the second one, which is exiting from the session and saving it, because we want to return to what we've done. We want the progress to be maintained. So it will be number two. And for the fourth question, which says type in a command that creates a new tmux session called my session. And in order to create a new tmux session, I've shown you guys in always in when I was trying to do the bind shell and the reverse shell, I was opening new tmux sessions. I did tmux, then new for a new session, then dash s, so we could provide the session name. So we have my session. Okay. And then for the fifth question, it says, what can you do with NetCat? We've talked about it in the previous session that we could do banner grabbing, so we could see what type of things the port number has, what type of services or applications it's running, and its version number and whatnot. And the second one, we've seen the transferring of files, how we could transfer files from the attacker, for example, to the target machine. And also we've seen how to set up remote shells where we have a shell, where we have a connection, and we're gonna execute a shell, for example, bash, and through bash we will interact with the operating system remotely. So all of the for this question, all of the above. S- So after you do this, you will have the flag at the end. And basically this is the challenge, how to solve it. So okay, I think because okay, if you have any question, you could just ask me, and I'll answer them, and we could end the session from this point.
All right. Thank you very much, Tariq. It's really have been a helpful series of lectures. We've learned about Tmux, shells, and NetCat. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session, and I think stay tuned for more sessions. Maybe next week or the week after it, we're going to have also another session. So thank you for coming. I just don't want to take much from your time because we said that it's going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes. So does anybody have a question, or we can end the session?
Also, one thing, if you want to try the the challenge itself, it's still running, so you could try it while anyone tries to answer me, ask me any question.
All right. If we have no questions, then let me check the chat before I leave. Yes. Okay. So if we have no questions, guys, so I think you can leave by now. And thank you very much for attending. I hope it's been helpful and you've learned something.
One thing.
Yes.
Is there any attendance?
Oh yeah, attendance. That okay. Give me 1 second. Exactly 1 second. Wait.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, guys, there you go. This is the attendance. I've sent it. You can see the link. It's in the messages.
It says that it's no longer accepting responses, so you could try to change it from
Refresh now. Refresh now. Can you guys see it? Tareq, can you see it?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you very much, guys, for attending, and thanks to Tareq for being with us for 2 weeks and doing this great job. And I hope you guys learned something today.
Thank you, Tareq. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.